what does it look like when a woman is winning publicly, but
Mm.
she's suffering privately? What have you seen in your own practice? Tell me
Mm.
about that.
Yeah. So what usually happens, a woman who is outwardly successful and has everything covered and inwardly in pain, is that they're a super performer. See, we have the ability, our brains, the way women's brains are made, we have the ability to juggle many things at the same time, which makes us feel like we're actually accomplishing things at the same time, but we're not necessarily accomplishing things. Just because your brain is moving doesn't mean you're completing any task. It means that you are good at a whole lot and you haven't perfected one of those, and inwardly you're frustrated about that. That frustration is what comes behind the door. You're frustrated about your children not being in the place they should be in educationally, or you're frustrated that you haven't helped your husband to become the man that he should be. Whatever that is, that's happening within you, and it's not the other people behind that door with you fault. It
Mm.
is your own, because you have not required of yourself the same thing you require of others, to be fully aware and fully functional in what you have been given. You haven't taken the time to assess that. Most women that come into my office, they have not assessed who they are and truly what they really want. Just an outward thought of what they think they want, which is normally based on what they've seen. See,
Mm.
who we are inwardly has not been seen. We have not mined for that goal and prepared for it and laid it out and say, "Ooh, I like her." Right?
Mm.
We haven't looked at her. She's not important right now in our lives. And so the struggle is sitting down and really taking the time to become aware that you've been juggling a lot and you're good at it. You're good at it, but you haven't perfected one of those things. So you're frustrated by what you're good at because you haven't honed in on the real goal, your real purpose.
Mm.
So that's what I usually see.
So when you say who, we haven't really wrestled with who we are. We haven't
Mm,
done the work to understand
mhm,
that particular woman part of
mhm,
us. One exercise that I've done, and I would love to hear your perspective on this, but I say to a group of these high performing, high achieving women, if
mhm,
I stripped away all your titles,
mhm,
your roles, your achievements, accomplishments, matter of fact, if the world woke up tomorrow and had amnesia and somebody said, "Who are you?" How would you answer that question? And
mhm,
everything that you're just saying is what happens in the room. There is dead silence.
mhm, mhm.
And maybe there's some tears because they're like, I don't know who I am. So you're saying
Don't
I
know.
can't say mom? No, you cannot say mom. You cannot say wife. You cannot say, vice president at the corporate company. If all of that was stripped away, who are you? How do we begin that journey of uncovering who is that woman
Mhm,
without all of these things, who's told us who we are?
mhm.
Where do we start?
Yeah, the one word that I love to use, and I use often, especially with women, is awareness is the best fruit that you can ever have. It's the best meal you can serve yourself. It is becoming aware of something. What are you becoming aware of? I don't know. That's what you have to discover.
Mm.
What am I missing? What haven't I become aware of concerning myself? So, as I grew up in a survival household, I became aware that I had to come off as a highly structured, um, almost narcissist, because it was going to be the way that I needed it to be, because that's the only way I knew how to keep the family in order, right?
Mm.
It's my way. I don't have time to ask questions. You must do it this way. But what I discovered when I became more aware that I am loving, I can
Mm.
be kind. I don't need to be a narcissist. I really want to be loving. How do I become loving? When we discover pieces about ourselves that we really want to be, that means that's what's really in you.
Mm.
But you've never looked at her because you can't manage her the same. She's not manageable. She just is. And
Mm.
we often, as high performing women, need to manage those things so it shows up the way we think we
Mm.
need to show up. But it's not actually how we need to show up. We
Mm.
need to show up just as we truly are, and even if that's being kind. because the power doesn't come behind you're able to snap people into position. The power comes behind who you really identify as. I identify as a super kind, super friendly, life of the party. I am very sanguine. I love that about me. I will have on a yellow blouse and I will make you laugh. And at one point in my life, I thought that was a weakness,
Wow.
not causing people to get to a goal I thought was a weakness. But caring for people and loving people into their goal, I found was my superpower.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when we take the time to become aware of that piece in us that we don't think really exists, but it exists, you just never used her because you felt like she couldn't accomplish, again, that word, what needed to be accomplished, we leave her lying dormant and we're desperate for her. And
Hmm.
so behind that door, if we ever assess her and then access her, then we're able to roll out this full bodied person that tastes better than any wine you ever had.
Come on. Come on.
And everybody's in agree, everybody connects with her, but you're afraid that that person is weak. Honestly, that's the word for achieving person. Weakness is fear.
That what you are touching on is when I was in session with you, I didn't have the word then. I believe this word came to me in the past probably 2 to 3 years, but that one is the essence that you're describing of a person. I was actually scared to discover what that was because in understanding who I truly was, who she was beneath all of the uncovering the pain,
Mhm.
uncovering the struggle, a lot of things that I had going on at the time,
Mhm.
that meant I would have to let go of what I thought was control
The power,
to,
yes,
to discover
yes.
truly who she was. So now I knew what I didn't want and what was
Mhm.
causing my pain, which was feeling trapped.
Mhm.
Now, like years later, I've discovered what that word is, and it's I am a woman of freedom.
Ooh,
And in discovering that, like you just said, when you know who she is, you're able to kind of roll out the carpet, and everyone now in my ecosystem benefits from that.
mhm.
And those who don't benefit from it, I've learned that I don't have to hold on so tightly to them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was the one thing that I was benefiting from by not discovering who I was.
Exactly. That's the freedom. But let me piggyback on something you were saying. You talked about when people around you meet that need, what you believe is a need, or make you secure in whatever that you're trying to accomplish, or whoever you believe you are. We always blame or put the honest on people, and that's the first issue you're going to deal with once you become aware. It is always the person. It's either the father wounds, mother wounds, or it is a husband that you feel like you can't make it unless he is this or a part of this, which points you back to the idea that you haven't dealt with something within you if that is a need. That is not the core need. The core need is always to value what's already been placed in you. And then you bring this power and this gift to others. But when we move into thriving, we often want the right people around us to help us be us. And that is not the resource. It is the terrible resource because what happens with people? People fail us because we're people of failure in so much of our life. But when you look inward and know it's already in you, not that you only need you and nobody else, you
Right,
do not
right.
need that, but the people around you need to be valued also. And you can only find value in them when you see the value within yourself.
What I hear you saying is that I don't need to go and become someone.
There you go.
If I believe that I'm created in the image of God, He's
Mhm.
already put in me who I'm purposed to be.
Yes.
And deciding to go on this journey
Mhm.
to identify who she is one of the most critical pieces.
Critical.
But let me go back because maybe there are other people who are listening who are scared the way that I was scared to go on
Mhm.
that journey because we lose how we benefited from
Yes.
not understanding who she is. Have you
Mhm.
experienced that with high achieving women coming to you and they just refuse or are resistant
Yes.
against going on the journey to understand? And why do from your expertise, why do they resist that?
Fear of failure. See, the one thing about a high achieving woman is that it's never the goal to fail, but failure has a lot of power behind it.
Mm,
And any athlete will tell you that. So if you were doing counseling with an athlete, that's a whole different mindset that you have to have, and a whole different vision that you have to have for them. Because the ideal is not to fail,
mm,
right? But we're not all just athletes. We are living beings that have been given gifts, and the gifts lie deep within us. It's been there since the beginning. You were born with them, and you were born with who you ought to be. But the discovery is the journey that God takes us all on.
mm,
So not only are we discovering who He is, but we have to discover who He has called us to be in Him. Now, therein lies the greatness and the power, because when you are sure of who you've been called to be in Him, you go where you need to go and you show up fully as to who you are, because you are fully aware that whatever you're bringing to that table is exactly what everybody around you needs. And so then you're not relying on the people out here to make you feel good about it or to make you aware of how great you are. You are fully aware of it from within. And
mm,
that is the power source.
mm. So there's then still an opportunity
Mhm.
for us to move out of this pain that we've sort of been resisting because we're more afraid of the failure than we are of
Yes,
the pain that we currently have. But
exactly.
we can truly get to a place where we're operating from a place of power,
Mm.
which is where God has called us to be. But we just have to be willing to go on that journey, is
Right,
what
and
you're trying
and the
to say.
journey is scary, and I don't use that word lightly, because you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
You're unsure, and a high achieving woman has to be sure of a whole lot of things.
I know that's right, because I do. I do.
Exactly, absolutely. But the journey of discovering inwardly who you are, and I don't want this to sound like some self-help to learning more about you. No, it is the power source you're trying to reach into to be everything you've been called to be. And it requires some inward connection emotionally with who you are. You can't deny yourself a relationship with yourself.
Hmm.
Scripture talks about when you look into a mirror and you walk away, you forget what manner of man you were. Well, when
Hmm.
you are fully aware of who you are, you do not.
Hmm.
Therein lies the difference.
Give me an example or elaborate more on that part, because that is the point that we need to get to.
Exactly. So, as a speaker, if I know I'm going to share something that I've been given to share. The one thing I have to know and be fully confident in is what I'm sharing is coming fully from what I believe is true and know, based on whatever evidence or whatever research or whatever scripture, right? Whatever role I'm in that moment, I have to be fully confident in those pieces, so that when I walk away from whatever I'm giving out that day, I know I'm giving them the best of everything that's been given to me.
Hmm.
Therefore, when I walk away, I don't feel any pain, any guilt, even on how I answer questions if I'm in some group that I need to do that with. I'm fully confident in my answers. Now,
Period.
someone else
Right.
may think those answers are incorrect or not what they want to hear, and I'm okay with those
Hmm.
people. I love them, because
Hmm.
without them, you can test your own faith
Come
of, are
on.
you fully
Wow.
confident on what you are saying?
Right.
So when you are fully aware of who you are, no matter what stage of life or where you are, where you're leading, you're fully confident in whatever I'm bringing you.
Hmm.
It is absolutely top shelf.
Hmm. That what just came to my mind as you were saying that, I think about Peter and Paul, right? And there's this one part.
My
First of all, I
God.
love the Bible. Like, people can watch soap
Mhm.
operas and they can
Yeah,
watch reality TV, but if you get in the Bible, it's the best reality TV that you
it
will read.
absolutely is.
Because Paul and Peter had a little tussle, okay?
Mhm.
You got Peter over here, like when the Pharisees and Sadducees comes around,
Mhm.
oh no, I don't eat pork. What y'all
Mhm.
talking
Mhm.
about?
Mhm.
then when they leave, he's over here, you know, with the Gentiles eating up all the pork. He was eating the bacon, okay?
Yes, yes.
And then Paul is like in a whole other letter. Yeah, just to let y'all know, I had to call Peter out, by the way. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
now mind you, this is a man that everybody's talking about. Well, I don't know if we should be trusting Paul
Right.
because wasn't he just persecuting us? Wasn't he just, you know, dragging us out of our houses and, you know, throwing us in jail? But Paul, as much flack as anyone could give him, he
Mhm.
knew who he was. So no matter what, why could he be so confident about
Yes,
what he was saying? And he was one of the
yes.
front ones who you never saw Jesus in person. So what you talking about, Paul?
Mhm.
Paul
Mhm.
didn't care what anyone was talking about, even to the point when some people came to him and said, like, you know, well, they're over here, you know, saying they're preaching in, you know, Paul, Christ's name, they're preaching in Peter's name, they're doing all
Right,
these things. And
right.
Paul was just like, okay, well, are they preaching the gospel? Are they
Mhm.
preaching Christ risen? So what are we?
Right.
Okay, next. He moved and he spoke with such confidence.
Yes,
He was unmoved because
yes.
Paul, you could say whatever you want to about him.
Mhm.
He knew who he was and was unmoved from that. So if he
Unmoved.
had a question, if he had a statement, if he had whatever it was, he said it, and then that was the end. Not very concerned with whoever agreed with him or didn't agree with him. That's not what he rose and
Mhm.
fell on. So I love what you're saying because I do think as high achieving women, sometimes we do walk into these spaces where the stakes are
Oh,
very high. There's a
yes,
way that we have to show up, and we do.
yes,
But
yes.
sometimes we might walk away, and I want to go sit with Jacquelyn and say, "Did I do that right? Did I say it right?
Exactly.
Did I hear every syllable?" Wanting
Right.
that validation and affirmation for you because
Mhm.
maybe I didn't, you know, say it quite the way that I thought I should say it because that woman asked a question that disagreed with me
Mhm.
whereas we should be, why there is no guilt or no shame. There's nothing
No.
but love because I know who I am. And from that place, I know
Yeah.
exactly what I said. I know exactly what I asked. I know exactly the statement that I gave.
Mhm.
I'm gonna sleep good tonight. Is that what you're
Absolutely.
touching on? The importance of that.
Absolutely. And the story of Paul is like perfect because why was Paul so confident? Because Paul had failed. He had failed and discovered more about who he was. And so the next time you step out after you have failed, you become pretty assured at no, I already failed once. I know exactly what that looks like, and that's not the space. I am no longer in that space. I'm fully aware. I have been fully informed for what I need for this time for to be here where I am. That's why he could write the way he wrote.
Hmm.
He believed totally in the essence of what God had done in
Hmm.
him.
Hmm.
He failed.
First of all, let's just be clear, okay? You are saying a word that high achieving women, we that is a sin, first of all.
Oh,
Talk
it is a
about
sin.
failure. You mean failure is a part of the journey? I don't think so. There's no way that failure can
Failure
be a
is a
part of the
part of the
journey.
story. Listen,
Wow.
if you don't use your stories of failure, you
Hmm.
won't build confidence in what's happening in your world even now.
Say it again, please, for anybody in the back who may have missed that. What are
Your
you saying? What are you
your
saying?
stories of failure has totally informed your way of communicating, your way of thinking. Every neural pathway is set based on the fact you know what it looks like
Hmm.
when you failed and
Hmm.
when this outcome wasn't what it needed to be. So once you've experienced that, it's no longer a fear of failure. It is only to be able to step out fully confident that this is no longer going to be a failure because I am assured of who I am now.
Hmm.
I'm no longer struggling with something that I did not deal with from my past or my family or culture or you know your freedom. When
Hmm.
you're free,
Hmm. Hmm.
you don't struggle with the voice of someone else who says, well, I don't think that's right. Well, congratulations, that's good. You have your own opinion. So glad you spoke up about that. But
Hmm.
it does not change what I have said
Wow.
for me.
Wow. That is the power of going from competence to conviction.
The conviction.
That is the power of going from, as the man of God says, it being intellectually jammed
Ooh.
to actually living out from a place of conviction because I walked through it and I've been through it. So walk us through the process of, because people are going to listen to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to pick up different pieces of knowledge and have more competence
Mm-hmm.
and know, okay, based on what Jacquelyn just said, I can go and this is how I can get free.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I can walk through pain.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I can step in front of somebody and be confident about what I'm saying because I'm learning about who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me about what do I do when I fail? Because there is a, how do I want to say this? There is a way to fail, I
Oh,
imagine.
absolutely.
Tell me, how do I fail? Because I know it's coming, and what you're based on what you're telling me,
Yeah.
it is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it even makes me think about what Christ said to Peter as well. I'm not razzing on Peter, but he's just in my
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
right now. But
yeah.
when Peter kept saying, "No, Lord, I will never deny you." What are you talking about?
Yeah,
And then I
yeah.
can just imagine the smirk on the Lord's face when he looked at Peter. You're like, oh, "Okay, Peter." So anyway, when you do fail, come back and restore your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
In that moment, Peter's like, "I won't fail. What are you talking about? I'm not going to fail." But there is a way to fail and to
Absolutely.
do it right. Can you tell us what that looks like for when it does happen for us?
Okay. So let's start from a piece that you have to be aware that we operate from the emotional brain first. So we first operate from our emotional brain. And from our emotional brain, then our thinking brain kicks in. First emotional, I feel whatever I'm going to feel before I ever actually say what I'm observing. When I see a palm tree, I feel something about a palm tree. I love palm trees. And I feel things about particular palm trees before I ever recognize that the palm tree is green.
Mm,
There's an emotion before I ever go to the thinking part of my brain, right? And
interesting.
so in failure, we want to skip the emotion behind what it felt like. When I deal with what it feels like, even if it's hurtful, whatever that is, I then have to move to, well, what am I thinking about this hurt?
Hmm.
How am I processing this hurt or whatever that emotion is? So that you can move to an operation. An operation has to begin with humility. That
Hmm.
hurt. It didn't feel good. That wasn't the outcome. Now, what's the operation? My operation as a Christian is, Lord, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Hmm.
What are you showing me? And I'm not wrestling to learn it. I'm relaxed in learning it because
Whoa.
humility comes with a relaxed brain. Humility says, well, I did that and
Hmm.
that happened.
Hmm.
Humility never responds in anger. It doesn't try to get something back. It just says, that's there. It's
Hmm.
out there. Now, God, what is the operation? What am I to learn?
Hmm.
Now, we never question how to get up and move forward. We should not question how to get up and move forward because we know that because we've been in a space of survival. So
Right.
we can get up.
Right.
That's no question. But how you feel about it is vital because that emotional brain is going to tell you things that you're going to have to then take control of.
Hmm.
Okay, that
Hmm.
hurts. I can't stay there. So I'm going to move to humility, get into an operation. Now my brain is thinking, it's formulating, it's creating patterns, it's deciding that whether or not this is going to be helpful, healthy, um, the best outcome for what God is calling me to. All
Hmm.
right, God, I hear you. Now I got to recognize one of the most difficult pieces. I've got to recognize whether or not I'm going to do, and I'm telling you, your brain's going to tell you
Hmm.
the next step that my heart and brain is going to tell me to do.
Hmm.
Now, that's a decision you have to make. And oftentimes, high achieving women are unwilling to go with it because it's usually the opposite of what you want to do. It's never going to be on the plane of, oh, absolutely. That's exactly what, eat a salad today when I really wanted this set of
Right.
carbs.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think I want to do that. But it's a choice that you get to make, right?
Hmm.
You failed on your eating yesterday. Today you get up and say, look, God, I don't know what you want me to learn. Maybe I'm not walking in faith about something, but I want to do it different. I need to get into the operation of it, but it's my responsibility to make decision of what I'm being told now from my inner being. And we all have that. There's a voice that speaks. And as a believer, we know what that voice is, the Holy Spirit. But the voice that speaks is going to give you direction, but you get to choose.
Mm.
No one holds anybody hostage. You have a choice to make. Will you or will you not do the thing that's going to be best for you and those around you?
Wow. One thing you said, because I would, because I'm very visual, and let me just be able to recognize it when it happens, is one thing that you've taught me in session. You
Mhm.
said um, you can either wrestle with it or you can be relaxed in it. Now, my brain will convince me that I'm really not wrestling. Okay. I'm really relaxed in this moment, right? I could just be very blind to that.
Mhm.
If we're being honest, what would me wrestling with that look like versus me being relaxed? How do I know so
Yeah,
that my brain can kick in the right one and tell, like, girl, you are wrestling right now. Quit playing.
yeah,
Stop
yes,
lying to
yeah.
yourself. What does that look like?
You're agitated. Everything irritates you. You move to lower brain. You ready to fight. You've got stuff going on, and you think it's everybody around you. Nobody understands what space you're in right now. Yeah, yeah,
I knew that's what you were gonna say, but
yeah.
just try, because I remember,
Yeah,
even as you're
yeah.
saying that, I remember,
Mhm.
you know, saying to you, but what about them? You're
Yes.
not giving
Oh,
me any knowledge, skill, or ability to deal with them. What do they need to do? What do I need to say to
emotional
them?
child syndrome. Again, you go back to
Mm,
emotional child. You become an emotional child, but they did it, and it's not right. And you go into emotional child, then you move to emotional adolescent, then you go, I'm just going to walk away and just leave it all alone. You go through the emotional adolescent. That's lower brain behavior, lower brain. All you want to do is stop what hurt you. And we don't get to stop what hurt us. We have to get into an operation to move out of that position.
mm, mm,
That's how your brain works, and your body and everything else will follow.
mm, mm. This then takes us back to what we were talking about in our initial conversation. And so we encourage everybody to go to that first episode, because that's where you talked about the importance of revealing those emotional patterns
Yeah.
that are hiding underneath our our achievement. Achievement in itself, what I hear you saying, is not wrong. You being if that is what God has put in you,
Yeah.
you need to achieve. The moment you slow
Absolutely.
down and try to, well, let me just be calm. We were talking about that soft life
Mhm, mhm.
earlier.
Yeah.
We have to define for us what actual soft life is, because for a
Yeah.
high achieving, high performing woman, it is not, I would never tell her to stop, slow down.
No,
But there
no.
is a way that it sounds like what you're saying, for you
Mhm.
to be able to go through this process so you are not on Front Street
Right.
having everything together, but when you go home, you
Yeah.
are crumbling inside. So we encourage everybody, go back to that first episode because you unpacked a lot of that.
Mhm.
Um, let's get into what I also think you touched on last time, and that you're getting to right now, not running from that pain, but how
Mhm.
unresolved pain shows up in
Yeah.
powerful women. So we have that agitation piece, right? Because I will never, and I remember coming to you in session, I could have never identified with some of the words that pain is synonymous with, which is
Mhm.
rejection, abandonment. I would have
Mhm.
never, you could have never put that on me, because that does sound weak, which is what you were saying in the beginning. But
Mhm.
how have you seen unresolved pain show up in high performing women who would
Mhm.
never describe themselves as broken? Because to us, that is weak.
Mhm. Yeah. So I've seen this show up in the women that I've dealt with over the years, and I tell you, it's amazing, and it shows up every time this way. Most people around them are considered villains,
Mm,
right? All the villains are after their position. The villains are after, the husband, does not want her to be something. Everybody is a villain, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody. So that's an extreme case, but it's often true. The other ways that women show up with this unresolved pain, and is the other extreme, is that they do not trust themselves in no scenario, in any situation. They just cannot trust themselves, almost to the point of every situation brings them to tears. That's that unresolved pain that's just sitting there, lying there, begging to be healed, and they're unwilling to actually touch it. And it's scary to touch. Again, that word is real. It's very scary to touch it. But to be in a space of aggravation or emotional turmoil all the time is even more difficult.
Is that where you would say, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of high performing, high achieving women who now have language for being in a chronic state of anxiety, a
Um,
chronic state of stress, a
yes.
chronic state of, we're just in these chronic states of negative emotions. Now
Oh, that's good. Well said. Yes.
we're not going to say it out loud, but is that where you would say that's coming from, not being willing to touch it, as you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where it's coming from. Because once we deal with that pain, once we acknowledge it, you don't get to fix pain. You
Mm,
must acknowledge it. A pastor told me this once. I think I shared this with you before. With my father wounds, I was so agitated about everything around me
mm,
due to those wounds that I had not dealt with. That one time, a pastor told me, "You will die with that. That's going to kill you, because whatever our brain is experiencing emotionally affects our body."
right,
It was absolutely true.
right.
He didn't know what he was saying. I recognized what he was saying, because what happens here affects everything here.
Mm,
And when you carry all that negative energy in your body, the heart doesn't work right. Um,
mm,
Different areas of your body just absolutely fail. Nothing flows. Blood doesn't get to the parts that it needs to get to, because you hold it all up, all of that energy in your brain.
wow.
And so it's absolutely true, when we show up with unhealed, unresolved pain, that we haven't allowed ourselves to at least become aware of that it exists.
Right.
You may not have the answers. You may not have someone you can go and sit down with immediately, but awareness is your ticket out. It is your ticket of freedom. Become aware that all of that bitterness you feel, all that chronic stress, is actually coming from a place of unresolved pain.
Wow. So how does a woman become emotionally mature without becoming hard, shut down, or even hyper independent? Like I know you've walked us through, quite a few different methodologies and processes to get there. But I imagine that some of us, okay, we come into session with someone like you, we understand some of these emotional patterns. Um, we might walk out of here, okay, well, um, maybe in self-protective mode. I might get more protective about
Oh,
myself while
yes.
I'm going through this process.
Mhm.
How do I do this work without overcorrecting,
Ah,
and showing up feeling like now I just
mhm.
have to like stay firm, have
Yeah,
good boundaries,
yeah,
say no? How do I
yeah,
balance that as I'm going through this process?
yeah. You don't have to read 10 books. You don't have to run out.
Because I will
Yeah,
read it.
yeah. No, one, you cannot do it alone. Here's where most
Mm,
overachieving women
mm,
really falter here, because they're unwilling to work with someone else,
mm,
whether that be a therapist, counselor, or a really good friend.
mm.
We're unwilling to be that vulnerable. So that's number one. There must be another. You cannot do it alone.
Wow.
You cannot do it alone.
Mm,
And then secondly, it's the willingness. One thing I said to you in the beginning of our relationship is that you have to do the hard work. If
mm,
you're unwilling to, the hard work is touching the pain. That's it. It is being vulnerable in the pain, saying it when you feel it, showing up to it and saying, "Oh my God." When you get that, oh my, you got to acknowledge it.
mm,
That is it. And so when we're unwilling to do the hard work, and we resist needing someone else in that space, it goes on unresolved. And
Mm.
that's that woman who dies literally physical death with had created a whole bunch of animosity among a whole bunch of other people who are sitting at her funeral really thinking, oh well.
Mm. Mm.
Instead of being cared for because you've walked this earth in this time, not willing to deal with that pain and to care for yourself and others in a way that people can care for you. But you achieved everything. You were top. You know, I think about, and this might sound strange, I've always wanted to sit and have a conversation with Hillary Clinton. And
Mm.
the
Mm.
reason I just felt drawn to help her,
Mm.
because to have to live out the life she's lived with all the controversy, all the pain of the man that she married,
Right.
all of that, and not be able to tell nobody
Right.
or say to somebody or to actually come to the conclusion of who she truly is, or has she lived out a whole life of not being truly who she is because she had
Wow.
to be what someone else needed her to be in a moment.
Wow.
I've always wanted to have a conversation with her to get to a point where she would recognize who she is
Wow.
and live that out. But is that possible? Maybe it's not
Mm.
possible for someone in that position to ever get to who she has she achieved. But will the people at her funeral go, "Oh, we're gonna miss her"?
Hmm.
No, they're
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
They're not.
Hmm.
She never got to live that out. She's never been able to have someone to really deal with the truth behind of everything she's experienced in her life.
Wow. Wow. And then in publicly having to do that.
And publicly,
That's
in
powerful.
public, having to do it. Yes.
Hmm. I know we are wrapping up. What you just shared makes me even think about Leah,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
being rejected in
Yes.
every single way. There was
Everybody.
nothing she could have done,
Nothing.
even to her death. I think
Yeah.
she got her man in her death,
Yes.
buried next to her. But
Yeah.
she finally got him,
But
but
not in her life. Not in
not
the
in
life
her
that she
not in
lived.
her life. What do you say then? What do you say to the woman then who feels like, will I just go to my death this way? Because everything that you're sharing sounds, it sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what is it that you're saying? Because we have two examples, an ancient
Okay.
example, a modern
Yeah.
day example. What do you say to her? Am I just
Yeah.
destined for this to be my life? And I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you tell, what is it that you're saying?
No, so we have to decide for ourselves
Hmm.
that we want Zoe life. Zoe is the
Tell
the
us
the
that.
kind of life where you can fully live out everything you're supposed to have, right? You've got to desire that and want that. So let's say, for instance, if Leah truly desired to be cared for and loved, she would not have looked at the man that her father forced her to marry for.
Come on. Come
She
on.
would not. And
Come
she
on.
would have to go back and deal with what her dad did to her, that he
Wow.
positioned her like that.
Come
She'd
on.
have to deal with that wound because that's a terrible father wound. No, you're the oldest,
Right.
you must live out this life. But the idea was for her to discover herself and not depend on her husband to bring her this love and care that she so desired. She had all these boys
Hmm. Hmm.
and a daughter
Hmm.
and could not find joy in that. Now you got to deal with yourself to discover why that you've
Wow.
got all of this,
Wow.
but because of that one thing right there that you can't
Wow.
have the way you want to have it,
Wow.
that's an inner issue. It's not his fault, it's not dad's fault, but you got to deal with that inner issue that you can't find joy in all of this
Wow.
because you insist on having that.
Wow.
It was never yours necessarily.
If we being real, that is so real. That is so real. You have to deal with that fathering, which is why the process that you just walked us through is so important for us who are high achieving, because we're gonna get what we want. Leah got what she, well, I'm gonna give you another child then.
Yep.
Okay, here are the mandrakes. It's my turn tonight. She was gonna make it happen. That was a, and we can touch on this next time. That was a true oldest daughter. Okay, she
That
was
was true oldest
every
daughter.
in
He's going to
every
achieve it. It was
step.
going to work. That's right.
She gonna make it work,
Gonna
but
make it work.
at what cost did she make it work? And what I hear you saying
Yeah.
is talking to the modern day high performing woman, the modern day, woman of high performing, high achieving woman
Yeah.
is there is an opportunity. There is still time left for us today to touch that pain, realize where it comes from, those emotional patterns, to be willing to walk through that process and come face to face with failure,
Yes.
which I ain't gonna lie, that's the scary part for me.
That
But
is.
to walk through that,
Yes.
to get to this place of conviction, because all of this impacts the way
Ooh.
that we lead, not just
Yes.
our professional lives, but in our personal lives, in our intimate
Yeah.
lives. And if we understand and know that we have been put on this earth for a purpose that
Mm.
only we can fulfill,
Mm.
once we start to walk in that and understand who we are and what has gotten us to where we are, we are
Mhm.
going to impact everybody in our ecosystem, in our sphere, in a powerful way that allows them to unlock who they are. So
Yeah.
the last question then is, it is the invitation, a new way for us to be powerful. So the question that I have is, what is waiting for a woman on the other side of
Oh,
emotional wholeness?
oh, wow.
What would you answer to that?
Oh, wow. Um, so the word peace
Mm,
is nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing lacking. It is the ability to identify with everything that's needed in your life
mm,
without feeling the need to rush after something that you wanted.
mm,
On the other side, it's no longer about want. It is all about every need being met. What need is that? The need to be loved,
mm,
met. Why? Because I love me. I understand me. I'm aware of me.
mm,
And so everybody else in my world that loves me also have loved me because I know who I am. And so I'm not depending on them for that love. Most of all, God loves me. And there's no love like that. There's nothing to be filled after that love.
mm,
On the other side of becoming emotional well through dealing with the pain and the hurt, there's just peace.
mm,
There's just this place of peace that no one can take from you. And you don't allow anybody to take up any of your energy that isn't coming with peace.
mm,
Not a husband, not a child, not a job, not any performance can
mm,
take away my peace. I will not give you that. I have the power to say, no, I'm not going to allow that in my world.
mm.
Appreciate you, but no.
Right, right.
That's what comes on the other side. That ability to say, no, you can't have what I have if you are trying to take something away and not bring something to me. You're
Mm,
not bringing something to me. I reject it and I'm going to leave you over there on that side. Now, if you want to enter in, I'm open to it, but
mm.
not at the cost of losing my joy.
Not at the cost of losing my joy. Thank you so much for these conversations. I'm excited. I just can't wait to what continues to unfold here, because this is a conversation for women with capacity, responsibility, visibility, and pressure. And we are
Yeah.
not backing down from those things, but we do need a different mode, a different way of moving so that we can fully live out this life that God calls us to unapologetically, without,
Unapologetically.
without the shame, without the guilt, moving, and as you beautifully put it, in complete peace. That's what's waiting for us on the other side. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.